City of Beaumont Committee of the Whole agenda, Tuesday the 15th of October 2019. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Before we get into it, we are pleased to be here today on the traditional territory of Treaty 6. We acknowledge all of those who share a deep connection with this land. The City of Beaumont respects histories, languages, and cultures of all of Canada's First Peoples, whether they be of First Nation, Métis, or Inuit descent, and appreciates that all their presence continues to enrich Canada's vibrant communities. We are all treaty people. Item 2, sounds like we have some modifications to the agenda. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I would like to work on an additional in-camera item called small site allocation.
Thank you. Could you provide the Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act, the section and stuff that we're speaking to for that?
We will provide that in print copy as well.
Thank you. Any other modifications to the agenda? Hearing none. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Councillor Stout. All those in favour? Passes unanimously. All right, first up here, item 3A. We have an update to Bylaw 929-18, the Cannabis Consumption Bylaw. We have our Director of Protective Services in front of us. Mr. Cook, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening and to provide you the update on our cannabis consumption bylaw 1 year later and what, if any, impacts that has had to the City of Beaumont. As Council will recall, Bill C-45 was passed back in October of 2018, and just leading up to that, we went through an exercise passing City of Beaumont Bylaw 929-18, the Cannabis Consumption Bylaw, and we were successful at passing that on the 25th of September. It was also at that time that Council asked administration to return in approximately 1 year with an update, just to verify, if you will, or at least to report in with any concerns, issues, or matters that have arisen from the passing of that bylaw. And that is the purpose of this report this evening. Very pleased to bring forward to the committee that a total of 16 files have been generated by the RCMP over the course of the last year. That was confirmed with our RCMP Detachment Commander Jeff Vegan just late last week. Of these 16 files, it's important to note that they are all fall underneath the provincial or federal regulations, none of which fell under the City of Beaumont bylaw at all. An example of that would be having consuming while operating a motor vehicle. That's under a provincial act. None were under our local bylaw. In addition to that, Beaumont Municipal Enforcement Services had 2 files generated or 2 complaints reported in, and both of which were unfounded. Simply, they didn't find anything or there wasn't any evidence to warrant pursuing the matter any further, and the files were closed. I believe that to be a success to both the bylaw and to with the transition of cannabis into our community. On that note, speaking about transition of cannabis, you will note that I've included in the report under stakeholder engagement communication that the City of Beaumont has received provincial grant funding to assist with the transition of cannabis and educating our residents on the hazards, if you will, of cannabis consumption. And we're working with our administration is working with internal departments, including Protective Services, FCSS, and the RCMP, of course, to generate a program that's going to be used for the foreseeable future, 2 to 3 years. We don't want to do this all at once and be done with it. We want the program to last. That promotes safety on our roadways, safety in workplaces, and of course, public places and such. This is all in support of ensuring we're providing a safe and enjoyable community for our residents, and of course, we're meeting the intent of the federal and provincial and local bylaws. Looking forward, I do not anticipate any changes required or necessary to the existing bylaw. Again, 929-18, unless, of course, there is a change or modification required when the federal government passes edibles. There's no timeline or date that I'm aware of as of yet as to when that will be. However, we have addressed edibles under the definition of consume within our bylaw, hoping to capture edibles. However, we still don't know what that's going to look like. So we may be back for an amendment in the future if required. That is the report. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, thanks. Great update. Appreciate the information. Questions from council? Councillor Stout.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, can I just want to clarify something, if I may, and just raise a small point. So, two complaints for Bylaw, and both of them turned out to be unfounded, no evidence. So,
Correct.
There's nothing very much going on. There's very little actually going on here at all then, in terms of files or investigations.
Under the umbrella of municipal enforcement, only the two that were reported or complaints received, of course.
Right. So what I wanted to say was that I was reading up on the Edmonton Police Service. There's, of course, they're enforcing federal and provincial legislation as well, but they're saying they expect a spike with edibles. I'm looking back to a news report on the Global here in October the 3rd. They're also saying that increase in impaired driving charges, pair of house explosions, a rash of illegal cannabis products. These through Canada Post have all happened in 2019, and Edmonton Police anticipate that's just the tip of the iceberg. So I'm guessing none of those are really covered by bylaw. I would imagine they'd be all federal and provincial.
Anything of a criminal nature would fall under or would be turned over to the RCMP, as that's not as part of the mandate of municipal enforcement.
In our case, right, in Edmonton, they've got their own police force, so it's
Correct.
Slightly different.
Yes, sir.
And they also report that there's been a spike in DUIs on pot. Well, they don't say on pot, actually. They say DUIs have gone from 69 to 92 since in the last year. But again, what I was thinking was this. If I'm looking for the Loch Ness Monster or Ogopogo, and I go on a search for it for a year, and I don't find anything, there's two possible explanations for that. One is that it wasn't there to find, and therefore I couldn't find it. The other is that I haven't got the proper tools for the job, I'm not looking in the right place, I'm not trying hard enough, I suppose. So I guess the question I wanted to ask you was, how confident are we that if there were offences going on under bylaw, that we would detect them?
Excellent question. Complaints that are received, municipal enforcement responds to complaints or files, if you will, in a couple different fashions. Number one, it's on the receipt of a complaint, and that's a complaint from our resident. Should a matter arise, being a resident of Beaumont yourself, if you had an issue with someone consuming cannabis in a public location, you could pick up the phone municipal enforcement, generate a file, they will respond, providing they're on shift, of course, to that incident. And that's what's happened in both these cases. Unfortunately, as I understand, the individuals involved were gone and they weren't to be found. The other way that it can be done too is, of course, those files are happened upon by a municipal enforcement officer. So, for example, if on foot patrol, they were walking a pathway, if we were doing a bike patrol, if we were in a park or on a sidewalk, and they were to smell or to notice someone consuming cannabis, they could act on it themselves. Beaumont Municipal Enforcement has been very proactive over the course of the last year in upping their patrols, both foot and vehicle patrols, and responding to calls. We have 4 officers on staff, and have done very well. You're asking the confidence level with respect to what we're reporting. Based on what's been received, I'm very confident in these numbers as they've been provided to us by both sergeants, RCMP, and municipal enforcement. Anything that's happening beyond this hasn't been reported or hasn't been located. I can't offer a whole lot more there, unfortunately, other than if there is more going on that we're unaware about, it needs to be reported.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate that. Just wanted to get a feel for
Certainly.
if we thought we were detecting what there is, or if there's nothing to detect, basically. Thank you.
Any other questions from Council? Council Barker?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to pursue a little more information, if you could, the grant funding and when you're going to be doing some education, and any thoughts you can give us now as to what that plan is for that.
Certainly. Working as with administrations currently working as with the departments involved, Protective Services, FCSS, and the RCMP, of course. We're currently working with a designer right now who is providing us an action plan, if you will, for the rollout of this program. They'll also be designing or at least providing recommendations for some of the items that we would provide, educational items that we provide to our residents. Timeline with that, I don't have a definite date of the rollout. Sooner the better, of course. However, we're waiting to get information back from those designers, and we're working with our communications department on that.
I'm assuming that the grant is to be spent within this year.
I don't have the exact date with me, but we have nearly a year to use it. The dollars that we're receiving.
Forward if we don't
Yes.
spend it by December.
Yes.
So I wouldn't want to lose that opportunity because I think that the fact that there are complaints and there are charges or potentially charges for the federal and provincial regulations, I think we have work to be done here. I understand the bylaw covers where it's being consumed, but I think we want to make sure our residents know if there are noise or if there are ways that they can reduce the
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dunlop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To follow a question, if you don't mind. Mr. Cook, you mentioned more people perhaps using, I believe, an outside party to help design part of the campaign. Is that correct interpretation of what you said a moment ago?
We are,
I'm mishearing you.
no, you heard me correctly. We are using an external source who specializes in creating programs for rolling out information. Correct.
Okay, my question is the grant of $32,000, would that also possibly cover the cost of that outside party, or that additional cost we would bear as a city? The $32,000 is geared towards the campaign, which I'm assuming it is.
No, the cost of the service provider would be inclusive of those dollars. There'd be no new money asked for.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Okay, so in front of us, administration's recommended that we make no amendments to Bylaw 929-18. Just want to confirm that the council was okay with that. I'm not hearing anything otherwise. Okay, so can I get someone to receive this as information? Thank you, Councillor Barnhart. You're quick to the draw today. There you go. We'll call the vote on that. I saw a slight hand from Councillor Hendricks there.
I'm not sure. Are we voting or are we just consensus? Consensus.
Well, we're voting to receive this as information.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
So that passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Thank you, folks, very much.
Thank you.
All right, that moves us to item 4, closed session. So we'll just like to